everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric here with AJ in Austin, Texas. This is episode 168 for March 29th, 2017. How's it going, AJ?
Going well, man. It's a good episode we got here. We're going to talk a little bit about tax stuff. What do we have on the docket for news?
All right, so this week in news, we've got some small changes to JAL, Japan Airlines frequent flyer program. We're going to run through those. We got a opportunity for the next couple of weeks to top up both United and American mileage balances by buying points with a bonus. We've got a giveaway of 5,000 Alaska miles just for creating an account and a possibility at a free lift ticket. So we're going to talk about that.
Interesting, yeah.
And we've got a major terminal location swap that's scheduled at LAX. So we're going to give you the rundown of that. And especially for folks that are traveling through LA in May, something to be aware of. And it looks like it just could be a mess. You want to plan some extra travel time. So we're going to get into that. And then we have a bunch more information finally about the electronics ban. And so we're going to jump into what we know now because last week we basically had zero information about what was going on. So that's the news. And then as you said, core content today, we're going to talk about paying the tax man, getting Uncle Sam his money and getting some miles to boot.
Death and taxes, yeah. Well, yeah, man, as far as this Japan thing, we'll be really quick about this. So Japan Airlines made a lot of little tweaks to their program. It's nothing huge, but if you're somebody that lives in Japan, you're an expat in Japan, this may affect you. I guess some of the highlights are, one of the good things is the rewards in Japan now are going to be half the price of a round trip. Previously, you paid a little bit of a premium for one-way travel, so if anyone values that, just minor changes. Premium economy is going to be a little bit more expensive. Originally, it was 30,000 miles plus $300 from the U.S. to Japan back and forth. Now it's going to be an extra 10,000 miles, an extra $50. So no core things to the program are changing, just a lot of noise. So I guess for the folks that are in Japan and you may fly JL or have a lot of miles, check out the link in the show notes. Points Guide has a pretty comprehensive write-up on it. So I guess we'll leave it to them.
All right. Next up, we have Alaska Airlines. So we originally were just going to be reporting on a quick 5,000 point win. A lot of folks that signed up a little while back before Alaska or during the initial announcement of Alaska's merger with Virgin America actually got 10,000 points as a thank you for having a Virgin account. Right. But now Alaska's offering 5,000 miles just for signing up and booking one flight before April 30th. So you actually
September
need to
30th.
Well, you need to sign up before April 30th,
right,
and then your flight has to be sometime before September 30th, and you'll get an extra 5,000 points just as a thank you for signing up. So that in itself, if you already have travel plans that could work with Alaska, and the kicker is you don't just get 5K points for signing up, so you do have to book a flight. And that brought us to this promotion that's going on right now, where if you happen to book a flight to one of Alaska's hubs out west, they've got a whole bunch of ski resorts that they've done a promotion here where you can book. You can use your boarding pass essentially to get a free lift ticket for the first day. And a lot of these resorts, I was looking at the lift ticket fees, and they're like $100 or more a day. So it's actually a pretty substantial value.
Yeah, as Alaska says on their website, fly Alaska ski free, and then a little bit of rundown about their partners, and plus with their collection of 11 resort partners, you ski free. So that's pretty cool. I'm not a ski bum. I would like to do some skiing sometime in the near future, but it seems like shit, man, that's a great deal.
It's a great deal. If you have time that you could take a weekend to go skiing, you can pick up this extra 5K points. Potentially depending on where you live, book a ticket for under $100.
For people on the West Coast, this is something that you probably want to look into a little bit more than people on the East Coast, or if you're going to have travel on the West Coast, because that's the bulk of Alaska's network.
Yeah, and I know that I just there's a whole bunch of different resorts, but a couple of them like Mammoth I know is a pretty big deal. Like that's one of the top rated ski resorts out west. So take a look, and if you like skiing, snowboarding, that kind of thing, this could be a great way to get those free miles, get a nice little weekend getaway before ski season ends, and get 100 to $150 off of your first lift ticket.
Man, I'd like to fly Alaska. I've never flown Alaska.
Yeah, me neither. I've been close, but never. I almost got rerouted on Alaska, but it didn't happen. Anyway, so check that out. We got links in the show notes. Next up, we've got a promo that I just wanted to mention. United's actually been running this promo for a little while now, up to 80% off or 80% bonus on your mileage purchase. And so that's running with United through 4/20. And so the minimum cost is 2.1 cents per point. Not amazing, but it's possible that you need to top up your United balance to be able to book a trip. So this could be a good opportunity. And American has just announced that they're essentially matching this promo. It's not quite the same terms and thresholds, but the American one runs through 4/13. So you've got a couple of weeks for that as well. Minimum cost is 1.87 cents per point, but you have to buy a lot more points to get that. And there's just sort of different tiered ranges here. So it could be good to top up, not good to just buy speculatively, but we'll have the links in the show notes. And the one other thing I wanted to mention about this is that if you do buy from American, keep in mind that American processes their own points purchases. So any credit card that gets a travel bonus or an airfare bonus of 2 or 3x, you're going to get those extra points on the expenditure. Whereas with United, they process through points.com. And so you're not going to get any category bonuses on those ones. But yeah, could be worth it potentially. It's an opportunity, like just with the American one, if you are booking a one-way to Europe and you've got 5,000 American miles, you can spend $981 and get the other 45,000 and have 50 for a business class one way. So, potentially instead of buying an expensive economy ticket one way, you could get business class if there's availability.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Moving on, let's talk about this Los Angeles terminal swap.
You've looked into this more than I have, but what it seems like they're doing is just an incredibly ambitious, like shuffling around of gates and airlines. They're swapping some stuff out. Isn't Delta one of the big moves they're making?
I think Delta is the reason that this whole thing's happening. I think it's essentially Delta's fault. So Los Angeles International Airport is a big airport, and I believe there are now 8 total terminals. And so what's going on with this is during a 5-day period in May, between the 12th and the 17th, Delta is essentially moving all of their operations from Terminal 5 and 6 to Terminals 2 and 3. And that means that essentially everybody else also has to move.
Get displaced.
Well,
eminent domain.
So I think the main takeaway here is you can ignore this if you're not going to be transiting or flying to or from LAX in that date range, 12th to the 17th. And I'd leave a few days after in case it takes longer than they ambitiously project to be able to do this. But essentially overnight, each night during that, a whole bunch of airlines are just going to be swapping where you check in, where their gates are. And so you could get wrong information, especially if you booked far in advance. You may have certain information about what terminal or what check-in desk, and it might be totally wrong. So we're going to post a link that's got sort of the overview of what moves are supposed to happen on which days. And then, from our booking service perspective, we're trying to avoid LAX transits during this period of time. And would definitely advise you guys to as well. If there's 2 pretty similar itineraries, one transits San Francisco instead of LA, try and avoid LA during mid-May.
Yeah. Does Delta have a lounge in their current terminal?
I don't know. I don't think it's a lounge thing. I think so. I was listening to Dots, Lines, and Destinations. They had a really nice segment about this swap, and I think it's more about the connectivity with foreign partners. So, like Delta trying to connect with China Eastern and wanting to connect with Korean Airlines.
Right.
So, like essentially, inbound flights from their partners can easily land in the new terminal that Delta's going to occupy and be able to transfer over to a domestic Delta flight.
pretty normal in airports. You kind of have the SkyTeam terminal where you'll see, the Air France, the Delta, and everyone lined up together, United, Lufthansa for Star Alliance, but geez.
I think the issue is that there's just been so much construction, so many new things happening at LAX that's fallen out of equilibrium, and they decided to be pretty aggressive, I guess, about how they wanted to open this up. But I mean, so we're looking at the map right now. The Bradley International Terminal is kind of at one end, and so I think that's also part of it for Delta, is they want to be closer to that end of the whole complex, with terminals 2 and 3. But it's just kind of, there's 8 terminals plus the international, and so the majority of airlines are going to be moving around and in some capacity during this 5-day period. So watch out for LAX mid-May, and if you do have any stories about this, if you're already booked through LA, I'd love to hear any comments as far as if I don't think there's any travel waivers. So in other words, airlines are not letting you change your flights for free to avoid this. But on
the back end, you could potentially, if you had a rough time, you could potentially call up and get some miles for the inconvenience.
If you haven't booked yet, though, probably best to just avoid this adventure unless you want to go be our on-the-scenes reporter. We would much value
be a guinea pig.
Somebody sending us some video footage of the chaos. But all right, so that wraps it up for that. And last up, we have the electronics ban before we get into taxes with credit cards.
Yeah, so this is something we touched on last week where we really didn't have that much information. We didn't even have a list of all the airlines. At the time, those 12 airlines were banning essentially all non-essential electronics for flights to the U.S.
Yes, and just to the U.S. So it's from specific countries to the United States. And so the city list here, now this is from the Department of Health and Human Services and the TSA. The ban is unlimited, so it's ongoing. This is not necessarily going to be a short-term thing. And so for the U.S. inbound flights, we've got Amman, Abu Dhabi, Cairo, Casablanca, Dubai, Doha, Istanbul, Jeddah, Kuwait City, and Riyadh.
I think it's Riyadh. Yeah, Saudi Arabia.
Yes. And so that's a bunch of airlines. I mean, that's not just, so U.S. carriers have some flights from those cities as well, but it also involves a whole bunch of foreign airlines: Egypt Air, Etihad, Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Royal Jordanian, Royal Air Morocco, Saudia, and Turkish Airlines. And I think the big thing about the variety of different airlines involved is that they've all sort of announced different ways that they're handling this. And I think the most significant, so Emirates and Turkish, it seems like, are doing kind of a good job in a convenience sense where they have made the exception that if, let's say, you're flying from Bangkok and you're connecting in Abu Dhabi with Emirates, right? At that point, when you get to Abu Dhabi, that's when they're going to take your laptop.
Right.
And that's different than the other airlines are handling this. So Turkish and Emirates, so if you connect in Istanbul from somewhere else, you can essentially fly from Hong Kong to Istanbul and keep your laptop. And
the idea is to let people use their technology all the way up until the gate before they actually fly, as opposed to...
But that's just these two airlines.
Right.
Everybody else is saying, literally in Hong Kong, check your bag with your laptop in it. And that is, definitely concerning for, the risk of theft. I think there was a really interesting analysis that said, okay, so Emirates, way more convenient if they're going to, just check them at the gate. And essentially, you would think that there's a lot more oversight over that super valuable bag full of laptops because the flight attendants at the gate are collecting them, putting them into the boxes. And then somebody else brought up, okay, so maybe part of the reason behind this is that, there have been problems with batteries, and batteries could, potentially catch fire.
Right.
What is the security risk of having 500 laptops and tablets all in the same box in the cargo? If one of those catches fire, that's a massive problem.
Yeah, that's one thing. It seems strange because, the whole idea behind this, I'm guessing, is bombs is the main concern with that. And so now what we're doing is we're putting a bunch of batteries that, I wonder, do you know if do they audit the machine? So when all the people turn in their laptops and they're about to go underneath with the regular, cargo and luggage, do they check and make sure that they're turned off? Because I would imagine a minor liability would be having a laptop on and running hot if I don't know, but
it's really, I mean, the thing is, there doesn't seem to be a ton of consistency here. I want to say that Abu Dhabi is the place that has the pre-clearance facility. So in other words,
no, Dubai.
Okay.
I think Dubai does.
Okay. So if you go through
Abu Dhabi may as well, though. I may have. I know the UAE has one city that is okay.
Okay. So, but the concept is that you go through U.S. TSA security
right
at that airport, and then you land in the domestic terminal on the U.S. side, which is super convenient in terms of not having to go through long immigration lines and so forth. But even with the places that are on the banned list that have that pre-check, that pre-clearance facility, they're still having this laptop ban. And so essentially they're saying the TSA people abroad are not qualified to check your laptop sufficiently for them to be able to allow it in the cabin of the plane. So overall, this is a lot of cities, a lot of very big hubs, especially with Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Doha. Those are some of the biggest ones to get from Asia to the US and other parts of the world. I mean, just hubs, centers of air travel, geographically in a good position for connections. And so this is going to be challenging. I think, for the time being, we're going to try and book around flights from these cities direct to the U.S. where possible for people that we're working on tickets with. It's going to reduce your options in terms of mileage tickets, and it's probably going to put extra pressure on availability from cities that don't have this ban. So I think, over the next few months, it's going to be interesting to see how this, on the one hand, you might have way better business class availability.
That's what I was going to say.
Willing to give up your laptop.
Yeah, if you're willing to give up your laptop, it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. And, the thing that that I'm really curious is how long this is going to last, because, this was set into motion and it's going to take some type of attention and action to stop this. And just, there's a lot of inertia. It's easy to stop these things from. We could be 6 months from now and this shit's still going on.
Yeah, I mean, they said the water thing was temporary, and that's been going on since 9/11, basically. So I think that there's a real chance that this is going to be a substantial hardship to deal with. The other thing I wanted to mention, we're not going to get into a ton of details, but we do have a link that's going to be in the show notes, is that the UK has followed suit and created their own blacklist. It's not all the same countries. There's some overlap for sure, but there's also places that you can fly direct to the UK with your laptop that you cannot fly direct to the US. But that also is going to apply. There's a lot of flights from the Middle East that go to London. And so that's another thing to be aware of, is that the same type of ban is there. And so we've got a post that's got a link to BBC's website with some of the information about their travel ban as well. So before we wrap this up, there was one other thing that I wanted to cover here. I found a really good article about baggage insurance. And I think this is even more important because if you read the fine print, which we love doing over here at Abroaders on your behalf, one of the things that almost all of the credit card insurers do is they cover your bag from loss or damage or theft. However, they specifically exclude high-value items like laptops. And so cameras, laptops, basically all the things that are part of this ban. And so even the premium cards, like the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve, both of those have a $500 limit per covered person per trip for things like jewelry, watches, cameras, computers, video recording equipment.
So if you got a MacBook, it's not covered.
It's covered $500.
So
this is one really good reason why you might consider, if you have the City Prestige card, using that, because so Amex Platinum card, $250 max on computers. Both the Chase Sapphire products, Preferred and Reserve, are at a $500 limit, and the City Prestige covers you $3,000 per person. Or $2,000 if you're from New York. Sorry, New York people. But either way, that should cover all but the super top of the line, MacBook Pro type computers. $2,000 to $3,000 should be enough to cover your computer if you have to check.
Well, the $2,000 is just per bag. So if you got two bags, you're covered up to $4,000.
Right.
So,
and I think there's a max. Oh, I see. So New York actually gets away with
potentially
if you split up your valuables. So the requirement here is just that your city card and or thank you points must be used to purchase at least a portion of the common carrier fare. So that means you could use United Miles and pay just the taxes and fees on your city card. So this is far and away the best option. If you do have to book one of these trips and you want to protect your laptop, use your city card to pay for the taxes and fees, and you should be covered up to $2,000 or even $3,000.
Also a best practice if you have the City Prestige card and you ever do travel with something more valuable than what, if you got the Sapphire Preferred Reserve, what they're willing to cover, which is $500. So if you got some valuable stuff you're going to be checking in your bag for whatever reason, that's actually something I didn't think about. I'm trying to think. I think I've checked something valuable before that I didn't really give that much thought. I'm like, I'll just kind of conceal it. But yeah, man, it's I'd be curious to hear what kind of feedback people have on if there's any theft. Like I know that's a big issue in a lot of parts of the world, is having people go through your bags, and that's, I think, one of the reasons you see those like saran wrap services. Is to protect your bag, but also it's a hell of a lot harder to break into your bag to cut through.
Open it. Yeah. It's obvious at least that there's somebody that tampered with the bag in that case. I think the biggest risk is if you're flying one of the airlines that makes, if your final destination is the U.S. and the last leg of the trip is from one of the banned cities, they're going to make you check your laptop from the origin. I would say there's two things. Number one, try and avoid those routes. Number two, book two separate tickets where possible. So if you're flying Hong Kong to Doha to JFK, book Hong Kong to Doha, and then separately book Doha to JFK. You're going to have to grab your bags and go through everything in Doha separately, but that extra time could be worth having that 9-10 hour flight from Hong Kong to Doha, have your electronics with you, and then at least only be checking them for one segment. So I think that's the way to go, but definitely consider the Prestige, and we will have the link for the Prestige card if you're interested in signing up. Probably not something to just sign up only over the insurance provision there, but it's a good card. It's got some other really nice benefits and a 40,000 point sign up bonus. And so if you do travel and you think you're going to be exposed to this electronics ban quite a bit for the foreseeable future,
could be good.
Definitely a good investment. All right, that's going to do it for news and updates, and let's get onto the core content, talking about taxes.
The tax man.
All right. Okay, so for today's core content, we are going to talk about paying taxes with a rewards credit or debit card. Tax season is right around the corner, and a little bit of a silver lining. It is definitely possible to get some really valuable travel savings when you have to pay Uncle Sam. And so we're going to run through a couple of scenarios. In general, it's probably not the best idea. It's not worth a ton of effort to pay your taxes just on a credit card that you're not working on a sign-up bonus. We are going to give a couple examples. It's possible to come out ahead. And so especially if you have like $10,000 or $15,000 or more in a tax bill to pay, it can still be worth paying the fee and earning just 1 point per dollar, or even better, 1.5 with a couple of specific cards. But the biggest opportunity for sure is going to be for people that have a sign-up offer that they're working on, or would consider doing an application now and getting that card in time to make their tax payment by April 15th.
Yeah, so a big opportunity for people that don't have the regular spending to hit a 3, 4, or 5K minimum spend. So this is a really nice opportunity for those people. We've also got some scenarios that will run down on different cards and the type of points you'll earn. And there's a few options, but it seems to be a pretty clear-cut winner as far as actually the way that you should pay your taxes. There's 3 options, and they go anywhere from 2% down to 1.87%. I couldn't find any differentiators other than that. So it seems like that's kind of the natural path to who you're going to go through if you're actually going to pay your taxes with a credit card.
Yeah, so the top recommendation we looked at 3 different options. I think the best is probably pay1040.com. It just comes in a little bit better on the credit card fees. We are going to list 2 alternatives in the show notes, which are pretty similar. The percentage fee is a little bit higher with the other 2. But if for some reason pay1040 is not working, maybe it won't accept the credit card you want to use, just in case you run into problems, we're going to link a couple of backup plans. But 1040.com, pay1040.com charges a 1.87% fee. So of the total amount that you're paying with your taxes. And just to sort of break that down. So excluding for a second, if you are working on a sign-up offer, the math on a $5,000 tax bill comes out to a $93.50 fee. And so just to kind of put that in context of the value of the points you're earning, if you're earning 1 point per dollar spent, it's probably not an awesome deal. The Sapphire Reserve's kind of a good example of a very powerful card with benefits that just earns 1 point per dollar spent. And so if you use the Reserve card to pay a $5,000 tax fee, you're looking at probably about $75 in just pure cash value towards travel, because 5,000 points, you get 1.5 cents per point towards travel booked through Chase.
Right.
So if you're using it the non-transfer way, the not ideal way, you're losing money essentially.
Yeah, not worth it if
guarantee.
you could write a check, you know.
Now, I would say that if you are familiar with Chase Ultimate Rewards, you can probably pretty safely get 2.5 to 4 cents per point on Chase points, depending on the type of travel you book. So in that case, you'd be looking at paying a $93 fee and getting somewhere between $125 and $200 in value. Better than losing money, but not probably worth spending a bunch of time on.
Yeah, kind of a small win, and then there's still the chance that you don't use your points. You know, like if you have something in mind, but I mean, you can definitely get ahead because, you know, ultimately you're buying points for 1.87 cents. And if you think that your Chase points are worth more than that, we do, the way we redeem them. So, but as you can see, though, like you said, really powerful card, but probably not the best option if you've got, you know, a lot of cards, some of them that may actually have a little bit more power behind the purchasing.
Yeah, the dollars per or points per dollar spent comes in really important when you're making big purchases like a tax bill. So the two examples we have to go through are cards that can earn 1.5 points per dollar spent. And so the first one that comes to mind is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. This is a really awesome card, not a huge sign-up bonus, but gives you extra points for that $5,000 spent. So in this case, you'd actually be earning 7,500 points instead of 5,000 points. And so that really increases the value. And the key with the the key with the Freedom Unlimited card is that if you have either the Sapphire Reserve or the Sapphire Preferred, you can still transfer the points that you earned, the 1.5 points per dollar. You can transfer those still to the Ultimate Rewards partners, but you have to have one of the premium level cards. So if you do have that combination, now you're looking at getting somewhere between, say, $180 to $300 in value if you transfer those points, those 7,500 points.
So now you're looking at, you know, your anchor is you're doubling up. You know, you're paying the 93 and change, and you're looking at over $180 up to $300. So now we're talking a more substantial return.
Yeah, and especially if you know, just this is with a $5,000 tax bill. So if you have substantially more taxes to pay, that ratio still, you know, continues onward, and you can
simple math. If you're ahead on the ratio, the more you spend, the better. If you're below on the ratio,
it's the only reason that it's good to have to pay more taxes here. The next one up is the Amex Everyday Preferred. The big benefit with this card is that you don't need any other cards to be able to take advantage of Amex transfer partners. So the membership rewards points you earn with the Everyday Preferred card are going to automatically be transferable to the 17 Amex transfer partners. However, the catch with the Everyday Preferred is you only get the 50% bonus if you have 30 transactions within a statement cycle. So if you have that card, you're probably well in the routine of using it regularly to make sure you get all those transactions. But that is essentially the same equation. And so if you have both of those options, you could use the Freedom Unlimited or the Sapphire, the Everyday Preferred. I think the choice is just whether it'd be more helpful right now for you to top up your Amex balance or your Chase balance. But sort of the same valuation, I'd say, like 7,500 Amex points is probably worth between $180 and $300, depending on how you use them. So I think this is a pretty good opportunity just with earning per dollar spent. But the big opportunity is definitely for people that have the ability to sign up for a new card. And the one that comes to mind is the Starwood Preferred Guest card, because that one's going to be expiring relatively soon. So that's a limited time offer. It's going to be around for another week or so. And with this particular offer, it fits right into our 5,000 tax bill example here. So
and the fact that the minimum spend is a little bit of a stretch for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people don't spend enough to justify getting the card. They'd have to do some irregular spending or manufacture stuff that's just not really worth a lot of people's time.
Yep. And the other thing is this also accelerates it. You know, you're not going to get the points posted instantly, but when you take a look at, you know, oh, I've got to spend $5,000 over the course of 6 months, that's a long time to be able to acquire the 35,000 point bonus. And so if you break this down, assuming you do have a $5,000 tax bill, you pay the $93 fee. And then you're going to earn $5,000 from spending $5,000, and you earn the bonus for $35,000. So right now you're at 40,000 total points, and on top of that, the transfer potential is actually 50,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you get to the having two chunks of 20,000. So you got for your 40,000 points, you transfer 20, you get 25. You transfer 20, you get 25.
Exactly. So what we were talking about before with the cards that earn 1 point per dollar, as you said, it was 1.87 cents per point is the cost you're paying. Right. If you use the Everyday Preferred or the Freedom Unlimited, you can get that cost down to 1.25 cents per point. If you do this math with the sign-up bonus, it's 0.19 cents per point.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a huge multiplier. And with the SPG bonus, you're looking at super conservative valuation of those points. If you get 40,000 that can be transferred into 50,000 of whatever airline ticket you want, you're looking at $800 to $1,250 worth of travel savings. And you can also potentially get even more outsized value. So that's sort of like 50,000 points with the right transfer partner, Flying Blue. I'm thinking, you know, you could have a round trip to Europe there. So that could easily be worth $1,000 at the right time of year. But I was thinking more along the lines of Alaska, and you know, with a transfer of those 40,000 SPG points to Alaska, that gets you business class on American Airlines to Europe from the US. So that's a one-way in business class, which is super nice. And if you wanted to go, let's say, to Africa, the rates for Africa is 40,000 in economy. So you could actually stop in Europe on the way to Cape Town or something like that. And for a single bonus, get a flight from the US to Europe and a flight from Europe to South Africa. Those are the areas where I could see your tax bill turning into like a pretty significant trip.
Yeah, a nice indirect refund, you know, playing your cards right. All right, let me play the devil's advocate here. So the SPG, well, it's really good because it's a limited time offer. So we don't know, or we do know how much more time you have to take advantage of this bonus. Another thing is we don't know how long SPG points are going to be super valuable for. Like, we're pretty confident over the next, you know, in the time you would earn the bonus now and be able to redeem your points, you should be able to get substantial value like you talk about based on their transfer partners and the transfer bonus. But in a year and a half from now, there's not really much telling.
Yeah, it's hard to know
how valuable they'll be. However, are there any other cards that you would recommend over the SPG right now?
Not over the SPG, I don't think. I do think that potentially also if you have some other spending and you'd be able to maybe do two cards at once, you might consider doing the United Explorer card, which is earning 50,000 points for 3,000 spend right now. And if you don't have this Chase Sapphire Preferred, that's 50,000 for 4,000 spend. If 4,000 spend is kind of a level that you regularly can't get to, I might prioritize getting that card just because the points are so flexible.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think for the users for you know, other viable options. Let's say somebody's already got the SPG card and they said, I already did it. Yeah, the points are great. What else? So Sapphire Preferred, because it's got that 4,000 minimum spend and you're going to get 50,000 Chase points, which are super valuable. Or United right now, which has the 50K offer. And that's a good thing because normally that hangs out around 30K. So the timing on this stuff is important. SPG, the timing is great now because you're going to get an extra 10,000 points. And also, you know, we don't know how much longer SPG points are going to be, you know, a top currency. The United card because it's up from 30 to 50K, and the Sapphire Preferred because we really don't know how long it's going to stay at 50, but taking 50,000 Chase points is great, and that $4,000 minimum spend may be
out of reach sometimes.
Maybe out of reach for some people. So
I would say on this, I think that's a pretty solid roundup for the personal cards. And I would say, so if you also have business tax spending to do, or even if it's just personal tax bill, but you can pay it on a business card, that's really not going to be a problem. Right. I would say the SPG business offer is a really good one there. And if you still have a 524 slot available, I would definitely look at the Inc. Business Preferred from Chase because that card earns 80,000 points after 5,000 spent.
Right. And that card has some massive benefits. We were actually surprised with how generous they were with the benefit for that card.
Yeah, so I mean, extra spending, so you get 3x points on hotels and airfare, and you also get 3x on online advertising spend, which is a big
Small business owners, it could be a really good card for you. Yep. And it's also nice too, don't they just automatically kind of roll it all together where you don't have to declare any bonus categories? Right. It just does it for you, and then when you hit the limit, you hit the limit. But nice opportunity to triple up on points.
Yeah, so we will have links for Pay 1040 so that you can find the site to make these payments with your upcoming tax bill, and also links for the cards. It is one of the best ways that you can support Abroaders and keep our service free. So the link for the SPG card for sure is one that we get paid with. Yep. And we're going to have links for the other cards if we are able to earn a commission.
Yeah, this is probably a decent chance to explain that a little bit too for the listeners out there. Sometimes we make money and sometimes we don't. Stuff is relatively complex with our partners and the way all of that works. So no matter what, we're going to put up the best link for you. And sometimes we're going to get paid and sometimes not. And we'll try to be transparent. I guess always expect that we're going to get paid on a card. But yeah, that's kind of how that works. It's kind of tricky. But yeah, we should have those links up.
Cool. All right. Well, any questions about this? We will have one more show before the tax deadline for all of you procrastinators. Yeah. So if you run into anything or have questions about, what you really should do based on your travel plans or based on the points you already have saved up, shoot us an email. Best way is support@abroaders.com, and we'll take a look and see if we can get to some questions on next week's show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for being with us. One last reminder we forgot to jam into news and updates is that the Amex Platinum Personal Card, the fee increases tomorrow from $450 to $550. And so if you do want to avoid that $100 price hike, today is the last day to apply and still get the old fee.
Hey, Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or